Let's be honest, climate change is a huge problem. It affects every part of every day of our lives, yet we are the ones to continue to contribute to its effects. One of the major ways America does this is through its heavy reliance on fossil fuel for energy. It causes droughts in California, flooding in Louisiana, and Hawaii is still on fire, yet the promotion of renewable energy sources offered have major flaws, making them unreliable. Like solar energy, it takes up a lot of space and has a very low output for its size. Wind, hydro, and geothermal, while great, are determined by the location, making them unreliable. And biomass adds to the carbon footprint. While it's less, it's still adding more than it is to taking away. So we need a reliable source of energy that lowers the carbon footprint with a large output. So I ask, why not nuclear? Okay, that's why. But let's talk about this. So my name is Murph, and this is my wake-up problem: nuclear energy. This is table contents. I'm gonna go through the introduction and end with the execution. So, my wake-up problem is asking, how do we promote the mass use of nuclear energy while overcoming the public mistrust of the inherent dangers in the United States? But before we break this down, I'm going to go ahead and start talking about what nuclear energy is. So think about dominoes. Nuclear energy is all about chain reactions. Similar to dominoes, if you push it, the chain reaction is on a submolecular level. That chain reaction creates heat. And in nuclear reactors, it's all about using water. So the heat turns the water into steam, which turns turbines, which turns the generator, which creates electricity. But what are the situation and impacts? Well, nuclear energy was basically a world. The world came together to create nuclear energy, but the first application was through World War II. And this started the mistrust, not because of nuclear energy directly, but because of the Cold War. But it significantly expanded after the disasters of Chernobyl, 3 Mile Island, and most recently Fukushima. But we are Americans, and we are heavy consumers. And why does this matter? Well, there's a big push for sustainable energy and sustainable economics, and this is what goes into the big problem of the economy. As you see, this table displays our huge debt ratios in 2021. How we had a revenue of $4 trillion, but basically spent over 6 trillion. And this is heavily tied to fossil fuels. Fossil fuels, if you really think about it, is tied to every economic problem. This is because we heavily need fossil fuels for everything. If you look at this chart, over 70% of energy, not just electricity, but energy in America is tied to fossil fuels. But if you look at it, but from an electrical standpoint, over 60% is through fossil fuels, creating fossil fuel power plants. The others are in renewable energy, and 20% is going to be in nuclear energy, with 8% producing the total energy in America. Why is this a problem? Because if we want to change, well, how do we protect the world if we're using fossil fuels adding to carbon footprint? Do we stop? While that is ideal, I don't think so, because personally myself, I have a diesel car. I have a problem. I'm always throwing away trash compared to recyclables. I constantly leave the lights on, and I have a heavy addiction to Amazon. Do I want to stop? Yes, I realized it. I realized, but will most Americans do it? To be honest, no. So we have to think differently. We have to be realistic, and we need to figure out how can we help save the world while also accounting for what we are dealing with now. So this is why I asked, why not nuclear? But before I go into the proposed solutions, I'm gonna cover some misconceptions. First thing, the cost of DOS, what it costs, and that's what it is in Germany. So when we talk about the cost, and when we talk about the cost, it's a heavy hurdle cost to get into nuclear energy, but it has recently decreased since 2021. This chart shows a decrease in creating nuclear plants, which covers down that even though it's a heavy cost, there is a huge reward. This chart shows that for a discount rate, nuclear plants usually make the most money on a discount rate, comparing the net present value over the future cash flows. So there's a heavy return on investment. It just takes a while to receive the return on investments, which goes into the jobs. The jobs in nuclear energy. Well, there's a worry that jobs are going to be taken away, but nuclear plants need way more people to work at nuclear plants. There's a push for more workers. It's not about being more intelligent. It's more about just trying to understand it and trying to get more people to work there. We can take anybody to come work there to work at nuclear plants. But usually at nuclear plants, I used to work at a iron plant. It was very dangerous. I almost lost my life. But the work values there, it was amazing, because nuclear plants are easier to manage, especially with the technological advancements. And this pushes the next need, clean. Is it clean? Well, if you watch The Simpsons, you would think that all the smoke that's coming out of it was some type of radiation, but this is just water. This is just water. And if you see most nuclear plants, it's going to be close to some body of water because they reuse the water to turn the turbines. It's very similar to a steam that comes out of a tea kettle, which pushes my next misconception: materials. Yes, there is a report that we only had 90 years worth of uranium, 90 years worth of uranium, but there has been new discoveries with nuclear energy, talking about all the nuclear waste, reusing it, turning the uranium that was in the waste into petroleum, and that petroleum can be used in nuclear plants. And guess what? We only use 5% of the uranium, 5% of the energy, meaning there's 95% of energy that we're not using yet. Because with that means that we have way more value for it and way more use for it, and we have more years to use this energy. But there's more than just uranium and petroleum. But the whole point is we have plenty of materials to last for a really long time. So the approaches, well, to think about this, we have to think about the approaches of how we should solve the problem. So one of the approaches is being transparent. Transparency is not about just the trust, but actually the interest that came with it. Being able to show our cards, let people know what's going on. I know in the government it's really hard to see what's happening, especially with the news. But transparency, sharing, being oversharing, always making sure people know what's going on at all times. But also being able to push for scientific and technological advancements. It's not just for the nuclear energy, but using what we know and what we're discovering to be able to expand and reach newer heights. I have a quote from Elon Musk that goes into that in this quote, but I'm going to go over to the other approaches. Bipartisan support. We need support, but bipartisan support is needed. When I say bipartisan support, I'm not just talking about just the politics, but the politics of the businesses. When you start thinking that lobbyists run the politics. They fund politics. So bipartisan support means bipartisan support across all sides, across all corporations. But what influences nuclear energy? Well, if you see it, it's going to be the people, the individual, the social influences. No industry functions without social support. And without that social support, it is actually the bottom line, the key motivator. As I explained, the middle class runs America, especially its debt. But with its debt, it also moves on to my next point, the economy. Well, if we don't have enough money to invest in it, to improve on it, to move forward from it, to gain money back from it, the economics of it influences nuclear energy. But finally, as I mentioned through the potential approaches, it also shows that there's a political standpoint, bipartisanship. So moving down to the talk I was talking about with Ted through Elon Musk, he talks about how in 1969 we went to the moon, and then the space program was retired, and people thinking that technology just improves by itself, because it doesn't. It degrades. Looking at the pyramids, looking at the Mayan ruins. But why does this matter? It matters because we need to push. We need to push, especially since we're trying to save the world, especially during this climate crisis. It's a climate crisis. So what is the proposal? What do we need to do? Well, the question is, how do we get 60% of the electric grid in the United States to be nuclear energy? Well, we can do this by education, both vocationally and institutionally. It's not just about the institutions. It's not just about the people going to four-year college, but vocationally, technical schools, being able to get certifications, or even down to high school, making sure people understand the basics of what nuclear energy is. This is also going to be promoted by the economic advantages, making sure we constantly share this. We can share this through the social, commercial, and direct media. And while we're sharing that, we should also share how we can leverage technology to keep people safe, like leveraging where we locate the nuclear plants. But we can leverage it through AI, we can leverage it through AR, we can leverage through using quantum computers. But those are just technology. Those are things we know, but we need to push for new discoveries. New discoveries going to be talking about fission. Think about the sun. Think about the Iron Man 1, where there was constant energy. While we're in fission right now, we need to push for fusion so we can have constant energy sources. But how can we do this? We can lobby for good. Lobbying has a negative connotation, but to be honest, it's the only way things get done. I know plenty of lobbyists, and if you're not in the room where things are happening, you're not going to get anything done. So lobbying, making sure that we take a big part of what's going on in the government. But this also means we need to be allies with our competitors. Look, I'm not trying to end fossil fuels. I'm not trying to end renewable energy. I'm not even trying to say I support one over the other. What I'm trying to say is it's just a different approach. So being allies with our competitors. So basically trying to put them in a different environment. Nuclear energy is perfect on Earth, but it's not the greatest in space. So we can use fossil fuels up in space, especially as we're trying to expand. So I'm Julius Murphy. This is my conclusion. We should look into nuclear energy, expanding it, and this is my references. I know I'm going pretty fast, but I appreciate you. I appreciate you listening to my TED Talk, my Tribe Talk. I've enjoyed being a student in William & Mary, and have a good day.